Hi guys, hope you're doing really well and practicing radical self-care. In this video, I'm going to talk about some baffling characteristics around the new source of supply and why it can be very confusing for narcissistic abuse survivors when they find out like who the narcissist picked as their new source of supply, and why it can be very confusing and like actually baffling. So a lot of times when a narcissist will either discard the old source and be cheating on their old source, and they'll replace that old source with a new source of supply, or your relationship with them ends and 2 weeks later they're like moving in with someone, or or quickly in a relationship there's no gap, they're not taking normal healthy breaks. You could have been in a relationship with one of them for 30 years and then all of a sudden they're just like slipping into a new life with a new person, and it's just really weird. Like there's no proper healing time or grieving time or processing the relationship. They don't take breaks. They don't go to therapy and figure out what's my part, like what did I have to do with ending this relationship. They don't properly grieve it, right? Because that's because a lot of reasons, but mostly because they weren't really attached to it. And that's not personal. They don't really bond. They could spend 50 years with somebody and they don't bond, they don't attach like sort of normal, healthy people do, right? So it can be quite, confounding if you're, in a relationship with one and you're like, all of a sudden they just like, shed their old life. And it could be like discarding their children, discarding their stepchildren, and like just like sort of slipping into this new life with this new person, that may have their own children. It's really weird, right? So that is a pretty, that's one pretty strong potential indicator that somebody might be narcissistic. Not always, but that they're just not taking the proper time to grieve and to do some therapy and to figure out what their part was and why the relationship failed, and to change some of their maladaptive behaviors to try to do a relationship better next time, right? Like the rest of us, like probably you guys on here are doing, right? You're doing some self-reflection, you're doing some introspection, you're probably, at least watching therapeutic videos or going to therapy. You're trying to figure out what was my part. You might be starting to address like if you have some codependent characteristics or your childhood trauma, like you're trying to prevent yourself from being in another toxic or dysfunctional relationship. You're probably, if you're on here, I'm guessing that's probably what you're doing, unless you're a narcissist stalker, which they are also on here. But in general, that's an indicator if you're able to take like some time off from dating, not just jumping into another relationship, and just you can be alone. You're learning how to be alone instead of like I must always be in a relationship. Narcissists can't really, they really struggle being alone. They really do. They don't do that well. They tend to be always in relationships. So it can be quite baffling if because often if you were cheated on, right, you ask yourself, gosh, what's wrong with me? What is that person giving the narcissist that I couldn't or that I didn't? And, what is it about them that's somehow better or preferable to me? Like, why did the narcissist pick this other person? And especially sometimes you look at them and you're like, wow, they're nothing like me. You could be like very athletic. They could be, a couch potato. You could look at them and be like, wow, that person's not even very attractive. And you would expect if, you would think the narcissist would find somebody really attractive. And it's not always this way. Sometimes a narcissist will be with somebody who's more attractive or more athletic, but it can be quite baffling. And especially if you're like, you had it in your mind, like a type that the narcissist might be attracted to. Like maybe you thought, oh, this narcissist is attracted to athletic people that are driven, that are whatever. And this person is not an athlete, and they're just, it's like the opposite. So it can be or maybe you think that this person, the narcissist, is attracted to people that are smart, and you find out this person is not particularly smart, not particularly driven. Or you can look at them and go, you can just be sometimes really baffled by the choice. You can just be like, what in the heck? Why would the narcissist be with this person? It's confusing. You look at it and you're kind of shocked. It could be somebody that you, in the life with the narcissist, you maybe weren't even threatened by this person in any way, because you couldn't even wrap your head around the idea that this person, the narcissist, would even be with this person. Like, that could also be the case. I'm not saying it's always the case, right? Sometimes it could be somebody who does have these attributes that, according to the world, are like better than you. But regardless, you can be quite baffled when you're trying to figure out what is it that the narcissist sees in this person, or what are they giving to the narcissist that I couldn't provide for them. And here's the deal. They're giving the narcissist something that you cannot provide. And what that is they're new. It's new and shiny, and their new supply. That person is not onto the narcissist. That person sees the narcissist as being perfect, right? And remember, the narcissist must present this like mask of perfection, right? And so that person is buying into the narcissist mask. The narcissists are, they're all about novelty, right? They need that new, and no source of supply is ever going to satisfy them. They always are going to need new sources of supply, right? They're always going to need that. So of course, once that new source of supply, once their supply becomes sort of, they're used to it, it's a little bit, old after a while, they become sort of complacent. Once that happens, the narcissist is absolutely going to do the same thing to them. No question, because that supply becomes old, and they need new. They always need new validation. They need somebody. They love it when somebody buys into their mask and thinks that they're perfect. And that's something that really only happens early on in relationships, because eventually, relationships, if you're in them and it's a real relationship, you realize that people are not perfect, and that's okay. You forgive each other's imperfections, you work through it. Most of us that have some emotional maturity do not go into relationships expecting people to be perfect. We do not go into relationships just taking a snapshot of somebody and not seeing their, beyond that. We're able to understand that people are complicated, that people are a mixed bag, and they have great qualities and they have not so great qualities, and everyone is like that. And we are able to work on the relationship and offer a lot of forgiveness and understanding of people's idiosyncrasies or shortcomings and flaws, as well as addressing them if they need to be changed. But we don't go into relationships having the delusion that people are perfect, or expecting that they need to see us as perfect. Mature people go into relationships recognizing that we're all human, we're all flawed, none of us are perfect, and we all have stuff we need to work on. And maturity is being able to recognize that, own it, do some self-reflection, do some introspection, own your part, look at your flaws, do some work around them, and hopefully you have an equal partner that is also able to do that. An equal partner who's also able to look at what's wrong with them, work on it, go to therapy, get outside help if they're not able to work on it or address these things themselves, right? So that's what healthy, normal, emotionally mature people do. But with the narcissist, they're so emotionally immature. They're like toddlers, right? Emotionally. So they're really attracted to new sources of supply. So anyone who is putting them on a pedestal, worshiping them, giving them adulation, and that is going to tire with time, because it doesn't even matter if that person is keeping the narcissist on the pedestal for a long time. That doesn't really even matter, because sort of you know, for the narcissist, even that supply is going to feel stale after some time, even if you're giving them a steady stream of supply. It does not matter. They're always, always, always going to go find new sources of supply because they need novelty, right? And that's well, I'm not going to get off on another tangent, but yeah, they need novelty. So just that's the reality. So you cannot give them brand new supply anymore because you've been with them for some time. If the narcissist has been with the new source of supply for a few years, they're also no longer giving them, you know, fresh, brand new supply. So eventually there's a shelf life with that relationship as well. I mean, you know, if they're covert narcissists, they may make it a long time. It may be 10, 15 years, but internally the narcissist is totally bored with that source of supply and they're always seeking new sources. So that's the thing that the new source can give them that you can't. And that is a very shallow thing. So if you're obsessed with, you know, why did they pick the new source? Well, the reason why is because it was new. That's why. So I hope this helps you guys, and I'm trying to make more videos, try to be a little bit more consistent. So hope you're doing well. And I do have a course on my website. It's a paid course on my website to help deal with this narcissistic abuse and learn how to set healthy boundaries and kind of do a lot of self-care in your relationship so you don't ever have to get into another dysfunctional situation again. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.